Welcome to our journey into the fascinating world of animal diversity. Today, we are going to explore the general characters of class Reptilia, the incredible pioneers who first conquered dry land. If you have ever wondered how animals transitioned from living in water to thriving in the harshest deserts, you are in the right place. Let us dive in and uncover the biological secrets of these amazing creatures. Building on that introduction, imagine you are an explorer trying to cross a vast, dry desert under a blazing sun. If you only have a leaky water bottle and no protective clothing, you will dry out quickly and have to run back to an oasis. This is exactly the biological problem that early amphibians faced. They were permanently tied to the water because their skin leaked moisture. Now, imagine you are given a thick, waterproof suit and a sealed life support pod for your babies. You can now leave the oasis behind. This is exactly what reptiles did in the grand evolutionary story of life on Earth. Now that we understand the evolutionary leap they made, let us look at what exactly makes an animal a reptile. The word reptile comes from the Latin word repair, which translates to creep or crawl. This perfectly describes their typical low-to-the-ground movement. To survive away from water, reptiles possess dry, heavily keratinized skin covered in tough epidermal scales or scutes. This acts as an impenetrable barrier to prevent fatal water loss. Furthermore, they are ectothermic, meaning they cannot generate their own internal body heat. They must rely entirely on external sources, like basking in the hot sun, to regulate their temperature. Beyond their waterproof skin, reptiles needed another major adaptation to fully conquer land. Unlike amphibians, reptiles do not have a swimming larval stage that requires a pond or stream. Instead, they lay revolutionary amniotic eggs. These eggs feature leathery or hard calcium shells that contain their own private fluid-filled pond inside. This brilliant adaptation allows the embryo to develop safely on dry land, completely independent of external water bodies. This single evolutionary invention was the ultimate key to unlocking the entire terrestrial world for vertebrate animals. Let us visualize this incredible biological life support system. What you are seeing here is a cross-section of a developing amniotic egg. Notice the tough outer leathery shell that protects everything inside. Just beneath it lies the chorion, and further in, the amnion, which directly surrounds the developing reptile embryo in a safe, watery cushion. You can also see the large yolk sac, which provides all the essential nutrients the growing baby needs, and the allantois, which handles waste. This diagram perfectly illustrates how reptiles carry their own private pond with them onto dry land. Having seen how they reproduce, let us consider why reptiles are so important to our world today. Understanding the general characters of reptiles is absolutely crucial for studying evolutionary biology. They represent the critical evolutionary bridge between ancient water-dwelling ancestors and modern birds and mammals. In the real world, reptiles play vital ecological roles as both apex predators and essential prey, keeping massive populations of insects and rodents in check. Their unique biological adaptations have even inspired incredible human innovations, such as advanced waterproof materials modeled after their overlapping scales, and life-saving blood pressure medications derived directly from snake venom. Now that we appreciate their ecological role, let us dive deeper into their daily lives. Because reptiles are ectothermic, or cold-blooded, Their internal body temperature and their overall metabolic rate are directly controlled by the outside environment. They can't just eat food to stay warm like we do. Instead, their internal chemistry speeds up or slows down based on the temperature of the air and sun around them. Biologists can mathematically describe exactly how a reptile's metabolic rate changes when the environmental temperature changes. This helps us predict how active a reptile will be at different times of the day. This brings us to the mathematical representation of ectothermy. This formula comes from the biological principle that chemical reactions speed up as heat increases. Let us break down the symbols. R2 is the final metabolic rate at the new temperature, measured in milliliters of oxygen per hour. R1 is the initial resting metabolic rate. T2 is the final environmental temperature, and T1 is the initial temperature, both in degrees Celsius. Finally, Q10 is a specific constant factor. It tells us how much the metabolic rate multiplies for every 10 degrees Celsius increase. When the outside temperature, T2, increases, the exponent becomes positive, causing the reptile's metabolic rate to increase exponentially. Let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. We're given a desert lizard resting in the shade at an initial temperature of 20 degrees Celsius with a resting metabolic rate of 5 units of oxygen per hour. It moves into the sunlight, and its body temperature rises to 30 degrees Celsius. The temperature coefficient is 2. We need to find its new active metabolic rate. We substitute our known values into the formula. The exponent 30 minus 20 divided by 10 simplifies to exactly 1, representing a single 10-degree shift. 5 multiplied by 2 to the first power gives us 10. This physically demonstrates that by moving into the sun, the lizard has successfully doubled its internal energy production, allowing it to hunt and move twice as fast. Now that we have calculated how heat affects their energy, let us look at their most important survival feature: water conservation. One of the most important general characters of reptiles is their waterproof, scaly skin. To truly understand why this matters, we need to mathematically compare water loss between an amphibian and a reptile. An amphibian has wet, highly permeable skin that lets water escape easily. A reptile has heavily keratinized, scaly skin that locks moisture inside. By calculating the exact rate of dehydration for both animals, we can prove mathematically why reptiles can survive in the dry desert while amphibians absolutely cannot. To make this comparison, we use a simplified biological formula for the rate of water loss. This formula comes from the physical principles of evaporation across a surface area. W represents the total water loss, measured in grams per hour. The symbol K is the skin permeability constant, which tells us how easily water passes through the animal's skin, measured in grams per square centimeter per hour. Finally, A is the total surface area of the animal in square centimeters. If the permeability constant, K, increases, the total water loss W increases directly. Let us use this to calculate the water loss for an amphibian first. Applying this formula, we're given a typical amphibian with a dangerously high skin permeability constant of 0.5. The total surface area of the animal is 100 square centimeters. We need to find the total water loss, W. We chose this simple multiplication formula because it directly relates surface area to evaporation rate. We substitute 0.5 for K and 100 for A. Multiplying these together gives us 50. This means the amphibian loses 50 grams of vital water to the air every single hour. This massive rate of water loss is a severe biological liability, explaining why frogs must constantly stay near ponds or damp soil to survive. Now, let us prove the evolutionary advantage of the reptile by calculating its water loss and comparing the results. We are setting out to establish mathematically why the reptilian scale is such a powerful adaptation. We use the exact same surface area of 100 square centimeters, but the reptile's heavily keratinized skin has an incredibly low permeability constant of 0.02. Multiplying 0.02 by 100 gives us a mere 2 grams of water lost per hour. The mathematical reasoning here is clear. 2 is a tiny fraction of 50. This dramatic difference proves the incredible evolutionary advantage of reptilian skin, allowing them to thrive in harsh deserts where amphibians would quickly perish. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us summarize the most important ideas. First, reptiles represent the monumental evolutionary leap that allowed vertebrates to fully conquer dry land. Second, their defining physical characters, like tough, scaly skin and the revolutionary amniotic egg, perfectly solve the biological problems of dehydration and reproduction away from water. Finally, as ectotherms, their metabolic rates are intimately tied to the thermal energy of their environment, which we can model mathematically. You have now mastered the fundamental characters of class Reptilia and the math behind their survival. Excellent work!